The long-awaited episode 47 Part 2 of Skibidi Multiverse is near its release date, and just as we wait, Dom Studio decided to drop what they called a trailer. But for me, it felt more like an episode packed with a lot of lore and fight scenes. We got to finally see and hear the champion clock talk for the first time, and finally, the pressing question of how the Sinister lost his arm was answered. So, let's get right into the details of the events. The trailer kicks off at Ethan's universe. Before the attack, it was a gathering, and it seemed like someone was about to address them because there was a stage. But some people in the audience were in cuffs. I wonder what they did so bad that this camera had to hit them so hard. Maybe betrayal of some high level? So, Astro Detainer 099 asked him to release them, as it was a special event. He had to release them, but Ethan was not liking it. He asked if he was sure. It later turned out that the champion clock was the one who ordered they be released from the cuffs, which shows how compassionate he must be as a leader and how highly respected he is. But despite all that, Ethan was still not happy with it. So, he asked for the Juggernaut, who was probably at a certain location out of the country. The Detainer had to assure him it wouldn't take long for him to arrive. I wonder which mission he went to. Maybe when the full episode drops, we'll get a better understanding. The crowd erupted as it was finally time for the champion clock to appear and make his speech. You can tell he's a great leader with the great support he got from the crowd. He finally takes the stage in an epic fashion, and not gonna lie, his design is quite sick with the two swords. Dom Studio really upped their game with this one. He then goes on to address them about pressing issues, a particular clock that went rogue and decided to use his powers for dubious reasons. I guess we all know who the menace is, right? But while he was making his speech on the stage, Ethan noticed that something was not right and went into panic mode. He went on to call Juggernaut. The Detainer was trying to make sense of what was actually wrong, and he asked a question. "You mean TVs?" Which was quite strange. Maybe in their universe, the TVs were seen as rogue agents, or maybe the race entirely was seen as bad, but I doubt that. There may be another reason he asked if it were TVs. But in the midst of all the confusion about what to do, the champion clock seemed to drop Ethan a hidden message, saying that there's one moment when he would have to cross the line and that he trusts his judgment. Wow. I think it was a hint to Ethan that he'll have to make a hard decision in the future that would shape the outcome of the entire war. The champion clock just had to give him a pat on the back, saying, "I trust your judgment." Ethan knew he had to do something quick, but it was too late. Before he could do anything, he was quickly paused in time, which was the same with everyone and everything in the venue. That's when it became obvious that they were under attack. The champion clock quickly brought out the astral sword and braced for any impact. Then, just as he normally fights, a black portal opens up above him from behind, and the Sinister launches out ferociously at him with chains, which I thought was genius, because he used this impact to cut himself loose, as it's only the astral sword that could cut the clock-sealing powers. But this Sinister was just an illusion. 3 more illusion Sinisters appeared from behind and attacked him, to which he responded with a slash that took them down. But here, we could see that the illusion was destroyed, yet an arm still remained intact, which was to say that one of those 3 Sinisters was the real one. He barely escaped losing an arm to the slash of the astral sword. I guess we all now know how Sinister really lost an arm. But unknown to the champ, the real Sinister was plotting in the shadows, with a final fierce attack from beneath that was so brutal, it tore him into pieces. Damn. I guess we can all agree the Sinister is the most brutal villain in Skibidi history, with all these kills under his belt. I mean, bro can casually wipe out an entire multiverse full of people and yap about it. Crazy villain. That's some Thanos level shit. But as we may have it, he's victorious over the champ. Time finally plays back for the audience, and they realize that their champ has been defeated. Panic sets in, and it's a frenzy, people running. The Sinister takes what's left of the champion clock, absorbing every ounce of his energy to the last drop, which I think is what made him so massive. Based on the camera angle, he grew taller. The agents couldn't do anything as they stood and watched in shock. Sinister took the astral sword from the champ and stuffed it into his severed arm and started yapping about suffering. But then, he gets thrown across the battlefield by the Juggernaut, who is also furious. But the Sinister doesn't fight back. He just casually drops the time nuke and teleports away. They were quite confused, with the Detainer asking Ethan what was the strange watch. But bro was having a mental breakdown like he hasn't seen combat before. I guess it was too much for him to see that the champ was taken down. He goes on to protest, saying the champion is not dead. I mean, his body was severed, so yeah, dead. But I think there's more to it than that. The champion clock may not be dead. At least not entirely. There may be some kind of plot armor that he survived. Or is it just me that loved the ancient clock design? Maybe he was just too old to battle the young lad Sinister. Who knows? Seeing this mysterious clock thingy, the Detainer had to teleport them out of the planet with the Detainer mech. But the Juggernaut was not yet ready to give up. He kept on striking the nuke, trying to disable it. The obviously cooked citizens could only watch in horror as the menace, Sinister, came back through a portal and slashed off his arm. But he was still determined. With his other arm, he reached into the mechanism of the nuke to try to at least jam it to make it stop, but it was too late. With a quick white flash, there was a massive planetary devastating explosion that destroyed the entire planet, engulfing it all in flames. As the Detainer watched in horror, the entire planet was destroyed, leaving nothing but dust. So sad. But then, we got to see the continuation of the battle between Ethan and Future Clockman, which, according to this, the Future Clockman is seen pinned down on the floor by Ethan as he pours out all his frustrations on him. It seems like things are not going well for the Future Clockman. Maybe he'll have to give up sooner or later, but I think the opposite will happen. Maybe the champion clock sacrificed himself just to buy enough time for the Clock Titan to get strong enough to defeat the Sinister. And Ethan would have to accept that everyone in his universe is gone. Although it may be painful, he'll have to save their own universe from being annihilated by Sinister. But what do you think? Write your thoughts and theories in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, so Sinister would not invade your own universe. Okay, I'm just joking. However, check out this video to see what would happen if the Camera Titan was evil. Unique Clockman out.